Hello there. We have a question sent in to us that I think is of great interest to a lot of people because there's a lot of self-taping going on, especially in the mid-Atlantic. So I have an expert here who's going to help us with two really good technical things. So this is Michael Dooney. He's casting associate for Arvold and also a filmmaker himself and knows a lot about cameras and filmmaking. So let's talk about lighting first.
Sure.
Give us some tips about what's the best way of lighting.
So we always need to see you and hear you clearly. That is a must for self-taped auditions. You want, at the very least, two-point lighting. So what does that mean? So if we look at Richard's face, we see these windows over here are providing the strongest light. That is your key light on the right side of his face. Then you have our lights over here, which are fill light, and that's providing not as bright to the other side of his face. Now what that does is it allows for a little bit of contrast, so it's not completely flat, and we see how shadows play a little bit on Richard, and we can still see all the features of his face, and we can see his skin tone. But we can, you know, if your tape is going to a director and a DP, which you should always assume it will be, they're going to be looking at how you fit in aesthetically, specifically the cinematographer. So it's nice to have that kind of contrast as opposed to a completely flat, you know, evenly lit kind of image. For background, let's talk a little bit about that. You want, first and foremost, something that is going to contrast your skin tone. What I think is kind of the perfect casting background color is what's called a 12% gray. And it's very muted, neutral gray. It works with most skin tones. And it's actually to get a little technical, it's the mid-tone calibration color for most camcorders. So if you're filming on your iPhone or a small camcorder, something that auto-adjusts to the room, to the light in the room, you're probably going to get a pretty accurate representation of what your skin tone is.
Nice.
Because it has the gray to work off of. I also see a lot of casting companies use a kind of dark or navy blue, which is very nice, especially Caucasian skin pops off that very nicely.
How about some tips this way?
Yeah.
Does an actor need to invest in a lighting kit? You know, I know you can get some pretty inexpensive ones, you know, on the internet, online.
Yes. Yes. It depends. It depends on what you're able to get. What you're able to get in terms of the image, also what you're able to afford and what you want to invest in. You can get a very similar look out of simply performing next to a window and getting something like a white bounce card and using that to bounce the window light to kind of fill in that side of your face. There's also very, very inexpensive lighting kits, you know, from $30 even. Yeah. Another thing you want to be really, really conscious of is the type of light that is hitting your face. The incandescent bulbs give off kind of a more yellowish, it's called a tungsten light. So that can make your skin tone seem more orange or yellow. You want to use something like sunlight or something like these lights, that more blue light, something that will highlight your skin tone.
Well, you mentioned an iPhone. Does somebody have to go out and invest in a real fancy camera to get this done?
No.
iPhone will work, right?
It will work.
Yeah.
Yes, it will work. You just want to be careful about sound in particular,
Yeah.
that we can hear you. And particularly with iPhones, a problem we see a lot is that your reader, since they're standing close to the camera, we can hear them way better than we can hear you. So have your reader either step back or be quiet.
Yeah, I've heard one tip, if you have the space, that you place the reader the same distance away from the camera in back of it as you have it in front, which is one way of doing it. Yes. Or if you have somebody that has a little bit of technique, you allow them just to go a little softer beside the camera. Michael, thank you very much. I hope that's helpful.